We're going to take a look at a very sharp game that you played in 2015 against Li Chao at the Qatar Masters Open. And I believe this tournament, open tournament, I mean, you're not playing so many big opens usually, but this was an exception, this one?
Yeah, it was a very strong open tournament. Started pretty poorly for me with a draw in the first game, and then in the second game, was a lot worse at some point. But after that, it all turned out pretty well. And by this point, in the fifth round, I had 4.5. I had 3.5 and out of 4, and I was in business. So.
And ended up winning the tournament.
Yeah, I ended up winning the tournament with in a playoff against Yu Yang. We both had 7 out of 9. So in the end, it turned out to be a pretty nice experience. So he prepares to play the Grunfeld, as he almost always plays. Well, like all Chinese, he does play a bit of I shouldn't say all. A lot of Chinese players, he also plays a bit of Slav, but Grunfeld is his main. So I got F3. Which I play from time to time. I think a lot of players play that from time to time. The anti-Grunfeld move, which is very sharp, which is both the attraction and the danger as well.
Double-edged.
Yeah, it's double-edged, exactly. So we follow the main line. F5 is a popular move. There's also Queen D6. There's E5. But anyway, sorry, I mean there's E5 here after Queen D2. Queen Knight B4 and Queen E8. This definitely took me by surprise. And usually he goes A5 here, but there were some points to why he wanted to go Queen E8 first, which I cannot really recite at this point.
Yeah.
But after thinking for a while, I guess I came up with some of the same ideas as I did in my game against Nakamura. That I'm just going to tuck away the king. And we are playing a bit of a waiting game here. In that he wants to go bishop e6 at some point, and then I want to go knight f4, and I want to go h4. Well, in this case, E6. I probably want to go e6, but let's say he has gone king h8 in the game to tuck the bishop away. Then, and I don't really want to move that knight. Meanwhile, let's say here, amongst other things, then g5 could be a massive issue. I don't know, maybe knight d3, but in general, knight d3.
That's an instructive point.
But the point is, I don't want to play knight f4 before he has gone bishop e6. So it becomes sort of a waiting game at this moment.
Yeah, because that's a very natural move for him that he's probably looking to play, but it's a good moment for you to tuck your king away when you can respond with the knight move you want to.
Yeah,
should you play it.
Absolutely. So now he goes a5. Here, queen f7 could be met by knight g5. There's no longer knight a2. So a5 is natural. He prepares some attack, and whenever I go a3, he might just ignore it. Like a3, AB is almost always going to be bad for me. So I go bishop e2, c6, and rook c1. And now I've actually turned the long castle into a short castle.
Yeah.
Which is always very comfortable. You don't like the king being that close to the center.
More compact this way.
It's definitely more compact this way, yeah. And after he went king h8, he could have gone bishop e6, but here also there was knight f4 or even knight g5, and probably it's still good for white. But he goes knight king h8, and here I'm still waiting.
Yeah.
Still waiting on him to make his move. King a1 is very useful. There's no longer any f4, bishop f5 check, and at this point we sort of both made all our useful moves, and he's run out of options here. So he goes bishop e6.
So Zooks won light, I guess.
Yeah, and he starts to play concretely now. Queen f7 is always met by knight g5.
Yeah.
So he wants to line up over here, but he doesn't really have that time. He goes bishop e6, knight f4, queen f7, and now strategic considerations are thrown out the window. And I go h4.
Game on at this point.
Yeah, game on, definitely. He can take on a2. I'm going to go h5. If he goes h5 himself, I imagine I can just break it all open with g4, fg, knight e6.
Make contact, and stuff is going to open up here.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty bad for him, I think. Now I'm just getting the point that here, if he had gone knight, I shouldn't go knight f4 necessarily because he does have queen f7, so I should probably go knight g5 instead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So if he can meet knight g5 with bishop g8, it's a little different, but
yeah, for sure. But knight f4, he usually wants to meet with queen f7. That's a very relevant point there.
So there was a serious shift in these last few moves where it was this waiting game. You're trying to both play as many useful consolidating moves as you can, and then all of a sudden it gets sharp, and you know that you're going to be trying to kill each other.
Yeah, and exactly because he has put the king on h8 here, then I know that once the h file opens, then his king is going to be in a lot of trouble. And it's going to be even worse than having the king on g8, because I'm going to get something with check, and also pawn running all the way to h6 will actually trap the bishop.
Yeah. And it seems to me we can see the comparison of the two structures too, even though there's a symmetry here with king a1, king h8. He's made more pawn moves on the king side, so you can hit his pawns a little easier.
Just as we were talking about in the other game,
Yeah.
That's for sure. Okay, let's just see what happened. So here he could have gone. I go h4. I don't care about the a2 anymore. I think if I'd gone a3, he might have had some options like knight c4, and he's somewhat slowing me down here. h4, maybe he has rook fd8. Doesn't look bad for black.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Like, even after he's taken on a2 now, my king is sort of safe still. Like, it's gonna take a lot to mate him. I feel like even if he gets a4, a3, then I'm gonna have b3. So it's not gonna be mate quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I have some leeway there, and now that I'm attacking.
Right.
Okay, so anyway, h5, king g8, not much else to do. If g5, I have many good options. I can go h6, just forcing the opening of a file since bishop e5 fails, because b6 is hanging.
Nice.
And I can simply win the exchange if I want.
Yep.
Should also be pretty good.
Nice shot there.
Yeah. all because of this king h8 move, which was desirable from a strategical point of view, but it turned out that concretely it didn't really pan out for him. So we got king g8. Obviously, I opened the lines now that I have the chance. Takes, and I go g4. And as mentioned earlier on, a4, gf, a3, I just go b3.
Yeah.
And he's not in time, simply.
Yeah, bishop's trapped.
Yeah, he's got to go bishop b3. But here I imagine that this should win just off the top of my head. Bishop d3. Here, I can imagine even rook h8 is very strong. Bishop h8, queen h2. Shades
of our friend Damiano again.
Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe rook f7 is throwing a bit of a spanner in the works there.
I guess throwing an e6 somewhere also comes to mind.
A lot of things come to mind. I think also knight g6. I don't see why that is not just very strong. Queen f5 is never possible.
Yeah.
I just kind of wanted to mate immediately, but I think knight g6 should be very, very good. Also, I'm seeing now other ideas, like there's even, let's say, takes, there's rook h5 also. Maybe you can take then. There's even this. Although I probably wouldn't want to go for that. It doesn't even work, I don't know. But I think knight g6 should be very strong.
Yeah.
Basically, I just have to calculate precisely, which is hard to do here on the
yeah, right. Very sharp position on the spot.
Yeah. But basically, yeah, just you could check it out. And then it works. So here, the point of bishop b3, which he plays in the game, is that in case of gf, you can go queen f5, and the bishop is not hanging on a2.
Uh-huh.
So that is not as effective anymore.
This is probably his best chance.
Yeah. So now I need to clear out. I need to get the queen to h2. And that is why I go bishop to d1. Yeah, and in the notes it says that bishop a6 is also winning.
Creative one. Nice job, Christoph and Peter.
Blocking the a file, quite importantly, as we will see. And preparing queen h2, which should win. But I think bishop d1 is a lot more it's a lot more instructive, let's say. If it takes it, I'm not even gonna bother. I'm just gonna go queen h2, rook d8, I got e6, queen h7, all brute force, just winning the game.
Oh yeah.
Knight d7, g5.
Yikes. Straight jacket.
Yeah.
Not for the claustrophobic.
No. So yeah, maybe even g5 would be even more sadistic. But who cares at this point? So instead, he comes up with a4, preparing a3, which would, if he were to move, I think he would win with a3, so I have to act quite swiftly.
Yeah, the price of a single move is so high at this point.
Yeah. So queen h7, king f8, and then d5. Yeah, this one, it looks like a very simple win. I'm cutting off the coordination of his pieces here. It means that whatever piece he takes with d5 on, let's say the knight, I'm just going to go e6.
Mm-hmm.
And as we talked about in the earlier line, then these lines are always winning for white. Queen f6, we got g5, for instance, and that's just going to win the game immediately.
I like how you said it looked like a simple win, because I was thinking, man, this looks like a complete mess. But when you think about it in terms of the tactical reason why you do this, which I assume is to block the bishop from controlling e6.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point, really. Also, I mean, I'm preparing knight e6, but yeah, the key is all about these e6 square, and if bishop d5, I guess I'm just gonna take the knight.
Yeah,
why
bank
not?
the material.
Yeah, why not? And this a3 stuff is not even close. You can just take the rook or whatever.
Right.
But he had an amazing idea.
Yeah, we got to give 𝐎𝐸𝐿 credit, because he really came up with some fighting ideas.
Which I have to be honest, I hadn't seen it. When he went for knight c4, my first thought is that, wow, this was pretty amazing, but like, it cannot work.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. So the point is simply e6, a3.
Yeah.
I'm just getting mated. Like, there's...
Unreal.
Yeah, it's just, I'm not even close to salvation here. It's just utter bait.
This shows you guys, I mean, one thing that's been helpful for me over the years is framing a decision in a game on a spectrum. You know, in slower positions where the value of a move is not very high, you can afford to take your time. You can play moves that don't greatly impact the flow of the play. But a position like this, taking your time is going to get you killed. So I think it's so important to just have that in mind when you're trying to frame the position.
Yeah.
How high is the price of a move? Exactly.
And once you realize that e6 doesn't do anything. It threatens the queen.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
You don't have time, because you're going to get mated on the next move. You don't have two moves. And that's why I needed to take first. And
with check. Yeah.
With check. And if he does take, then I have rook h8. And that's going to be...
that's a nice line.
That's going to be checkmate. So he has to go king e8, e6. And now the big idea is that I'm going to get the queen with check.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes all the difference in the world.
Yep.
And he has no choice. He has to go a3.
Playing queen f6 would be like what you were showing before.
Yeah, queen f6. There are any number of wins here. Rook h8, I think, is mate.
Everything coming with
take
tempo, attack. Yeah.
Yeah. Just don't even think about playing g5 at this point, because here you don't have the time. So he doesn't have the time, so he goes a3. And now I've gotten the queen with check, which, like, when you calculate, this is the first moment you get to, like, this is huge. Getting the queen with actually getting the queen with check.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've achieved something. So it may not be enough, but you've achieved a great deal. And that's why I was very optimistic that I was going to find something. And obviously, before I went knight g6, I'd calculated everything after I'd recovered from the shock from knight c4. But I think you don't give up when you get to this point. You feel like there is something.
Yep.
And you always want to look at the possible checks, and then this comes into mind, knight e5, which is a very disruptive check. I'm just threatening to take on c4 without that knight threatening b2. He has no attack anymore. So knight e5 is obviously not an option. I can even go bishop takes b3, and everything is pretty nice and safe. So he has to take the bishop. That's his only real choice. And so I go queen f5. Check.
Yep.
And now he has a problem. Now he has a huge problem. That he would love to make a move which does not allow queen takes e5 check. But there's just no square for the king here. King d6. It's gonna run into, at the very least, queen e6, followed by queen takes e5 next. And otherwise, you just have queen c7. And now I got queen e5.
Nice.
And I calculated this for a long time, but I couldn't find any even glimmer of hope for him. And it turns out here that everything works out so well for me because his king is exposed on c7, that knight d3, which would look like a very strong move, with some of the same themes. Now it just runs into knight b5. King goes, and I just take on a3.
Right.
And that's just too much material.
He's running out of ammunition at this point.
Yeah. And just notice, by the way, that after knight e5, the bishop actually ended up taking on b3, which was one of the major points of going bishop d1 at this point. The fact that it not only clears the line for the queen, but it actually might end up winning that bishop on b3 at some point. It makes a huge difference to me that the bishop is attacking b3.
That's why you like it more than bishop a6.
Oh, definitely. Had I seen the idea with knight c4 and a3 giving up the queen a bit earlier, I might have given more priority to blocking the a file, but
we'll forgive you for missing that one.
Yeah, I'm very happy to hear that. So yeah, after what happened in the game, knight e5 was the important move to find, and now it's all over. He took on b2. There's never any rook a3 tricks. Just getting that rook, and so he thought for a long time around here after he'd taken the rook. Knights.
It's a little surprising because he probably
I think he
immediately understood it's losing.
Yeah, he understood. I think he just, I don't know, he didn't want to resign. It had been such a fascinating game. I think that he wanted to keep it going a bit longer. But there was really nothing. And after what happened in the game, I'm so much material up here, I cannot even count it. And actually just two bishops against the rook and the pawn up, but I got this passer on f7 as well.
Yeah.
As well as pretty good coordination. So he resigned because of knight g4 and then bishop e6.
Right.
And this one turned out to be, after h4, it was really all tactics.
Yeah.
But I think if you do take the time to make moves such as king b1, rook c1, bishop b2, rook c1, king a1, when the position does require it, you give yourself a better chance of having the tactics work in your favor, which is all you really which is all you really want if you want to play chess at a very high level.
Yeah.
If you want to go for an attack from the very start, then and not care about anything else, then good for you. But then you should tune into another course.
Yeah. I think it's such an important point you made about strategy, not necessarily being slower positional stuff. Like a big part of strategy is recognizing change in the pace of play.
Exactly.
And how things just shifted on a dime after these preparatory moves were made for both sides. And like we said, game on after a certain point. And then it's time to calculate. It's time to get specific.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, it's like I sort of prefer to play more slowly and prevent counterplay. But at certain points, like here, h4, first of all, just looks so good.
Mm-hmm.
And also concretely thinking, well, if I go a3, then he's got knight c4, then it doesn't look like I'm really in time to get anything. And then you start thinking, maybe this is the moment. He's gone king h8, bishop a3, a2 is not really a threat. Maybe this is the one moment, the one opportunity that I have to actually play for the attack. And as the game showed, this was it.
Yeah, highly instructive, and this sharp victory propelled you to overall victory in the tournament, winning that playoff against Yu Yangyi.
Yeah, then I made a few draws, and I beat Mondjarf with black, which turned out to be enough. So definitely good memories from that game and overall victory there.
Okay. We're looking forward to seeing more sharp masterpieces like this victory against Li Chao.